Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked back at a decision you made and thought, if only I knew then what I know now? If you have, you're not alone. In fact, we all have moments like that when we realize that one mistake could have been avoided with just a little more insight, a bit more reflection, or a touch more wisdom. Today we're going to uncover some of those crucial lessons so you can avoid repeating those same errors and lead a more purposeful, successful life. What if I told you that many of the mistakes you regret most today could have been avoided with one simple shift in mindset? What if you could look ahead instead of looking back and avoid the pitfalls that others trip over daily? Stick with me for the next few minutes, and I'll show you how to stop making those same mistakes and how to build a life that reflects the best of your potential. When we think about success, failure, and everything in between, our minds often turn to the big moments, the breakthroughs, the dramatic turning points, the pivotal decisions that changed our lives. We imagine that success or failure is the result of monumental action, something grand and significant. But here's the truth. The real secret to shaping your life lies in the small choices you make every single day. We often overlook these choices because they seem insignificant at the time. In fact, many of them may appear so small that we don't even think they matter. We might tell ourselves, it's just one more day of skipping the gym, or I'll start that project tomorrow. But in reality, it's these little decisions stacked up over time that create the life you ultimately lead. The power of small choices can be understood in the simple truth that small things can become big things, and with time, those small things compound. The key here is consistency. The smallest choice today could be the first domino in a chain reaction that leads to a future you either embrace or regret. We've all heard the phrase, it's the little things that count, but do we fully grasp how much that truly means? Let me ask you, have you ever eaten a meal that you knew wasn't healthy for you just because it was quick or convenient? Maybe you didn't feel the immediate impact. Maybe you didn't gain weight or feel sluggish after that one meal. But over time, those small decisions add up. One unhealthy choice becomes 2, then 10, then 50. Before you know it, you're in a cycle that becomes harder to break. And those small, seemingly harmless choices have shaped your health and well-being in ways you didn't anticipate. This same principle applies not just to health, but to every aspect of life, finances, relationships, career, personal growth. Small choices are just inconsequential decisions. They are the building blocks of your future. Whether you're aware of it or not, they are laying the foundation for who you will become and what you will accomplish. Let's dive deeper into how small choices compound over time. The concept of the compound effect is simple. Small actions repeated consistently create significant results. Think of it like investing in a savings account. You may not see much growth in the beginning, but when you consistently add small deposits, over time the interest compounds and your balance grows faster than you imagined. The same happens in your life. If you make small, positive decisions on a regular basis, they will compound and yield significant returns in your personal and professional life. For example, consider reading for just 10 minutes a day. At first, it doesn't feel like much. What could you possibly gain from 10 minutes of reading? But if you do it consistently for a month, a year, or even 5 years, you'll have read hundreds, even thousands of pages. That knowledge will accumulate and transform your thinking, your abilities, and the opportunities available to you. On the other hand, making small negative choices also compounds in the opposite direction. Procrastination, for instance, may seem like a harmless decision at first. It's just one more day of pushing back this task, you tell yourself. But as you continue to procrastinate, you find yourself falling further behind, losing opportunities, and building a pattern of inaction that becomes harder to break. This principle is true in relationships as well. Small acts of kindness, gratitude, or love might seem insignificant on their own, but over time they build trust and deepen connections. Small arguments, neglect, or hurtful words, however, can also accumulate, damaging relationships in ways that may feel irreparable. At the heart of the power of small choices is self-discipline. The ability to make good, consistent decisions day in and day out is what sets the successful apart from the unsuccessful. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that success comes from one big, heroic effort or a moment of inspiration. But the truth is that self-discipline is the foundation of success. It's the ability to make the right choice over and over again, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Think about athletes, for example. It's not their one-time victory that defines them, but the countless hours of practice, the small decisions they make each day to stay committed to their training. It's waking up early, sticking to a strict routine, eating well, and pushing through fatigue. These seemingly small decisions create the difference between success and failure. It's not the major event, but the sum of many small decisions that ultimately defines who they are and what they accomplish. In the context of long-term goals, the power of small choices becomes even more evident. Whether you want to build a business, lose weight, write a book, or master a new skill, the journey always begins with small choices. It's easy to get overwhelmed when looking at the enormity of a long-term goal. It can feel like too much to handle, and it's tempting to put off getting started. But when you break down your goal into smaller, manageable decisions, the path forward becomes clearer. Let's say your goal is to get fit. You could easily be intimidated by the idea of spending hours at the gym or committing to a strict diet. But what if you started by making just one small change, like drinking more water each day or walking for 10 minutes a day? Those small decisions, when made consistently, compound over time. And before you know it, they'll lead to major results. The key is not to get discouraged by the size of the task at hand, but to start small and stay consistent. The same is true in your career. It's easy to feel like you'll never achieve your dream job, or that success is too far out of reach. But by making small, intentional decisions such as improving your skills, networking, or taking on small projects, you will gradually build a foundation for bigger opportunities. Success doesn't happen overnight, but through a series of small, deliberate actions. Your mindset is critical when it comes to making small choices. If you believe that small decisions don't matter, then you won't pay attention to them. If you think that success requires a single, monumental effort, then you'll miss the daily opportunities to improve. But when you understand that every choice has an impact, no matter how small, you begin to approach life differently. You become more conscious of your decisions, more intentional with your actions, and more deliberate in your focus. This shift in mindset can completely change the way you approach your goals. It helps you stay focused on the long-term rewards instead of getting bogged down by the temporary discomfort of making the right choices. It's about seeing the bigger picture, the understanding that each small step is a necessary part of your journey, and that nothing worth achieving comes from one single action. It's the accumulation of good decisions made every day that leads to great outcomes. One of the most important steps in leveraging the power of small choices is developing awareness. We often go through our day without thinking about the decisions we're making. We don't realize the power of saying no to distractions or the impact of choosing to start a project instead of procrastinating. Developing an awareness of these small choices is the first step in taking control of your life. Begin by paying attention to your habits and your daily routine. Are there areas where you can make small, positive changes? Are there habits you need to eliminate that have been holding you back? Sometimes the biggest shift you can make is becoming more aware of the small decisions you're already making and choosing to change them for the better. The power of small choices is real, and it's in your hands. Every day you make decisions that have the potential to shape your life. By being aware of these choices and making them count, you create a future that reflects your true potential. It may seem like a small step, but those steps will lead you to big results. The choices you make today matter more than you might think. Every successful life lies one powerful concept: personal responsibility. It's the ability to own your actions, decisions, and the results that come from them. Personal responsibility means understanding that the way your life turns out is not determined by circumstances, other people, or external factors alone. It's determined by how you respond to those factors and what choices you make in any given situation. Yet, despite its central role in success, many people resist taking full responsibility for their lives. It's easy to point fingers, to blame external forces for the difficulties we face. It's comforting to tell ourselves that someone or something else is to blame for our failures. But as long as we remain in the mindset of victimhood, we relinquish our power. The moment we accept responsibility for our lives, we gain the freedom to make changes, take control, and shape our futures. Personal responsibility begins with ownership of your life, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. It's easy to blame the economy, your upbringing, or the people around you for where you are in life. And while external factors do play a role in shaping our circumstances, they are not the sole determinant of our success or failure. The truth is that we always have a choice in how we respond to what happens to us. When you take full ownership of your life, you stop making excuses. You stop blaming the past, the people who wronged you, or the opportunities you missed. Instead, you look at where you are today and ask yourself, what can I do right now to improve the situation? When you take ownership, you realize that every moment is an opportunity to shift the trajectory of your life, regardless of past mistakes or challenges. Ownership isn't just about recognizing your mistakes, it's also about celebrating your successes. When you own your achievements, you acknowledge the hard work, determination, and effort you put into them. You give yourself the credit you deserve, which fosters greater confidence and a positive mindset. Without taking ownership, your accomplishments can feel hollow because you didn't see them as the result of your choices and actions. One of the most insidious traps that people fall into is the victim mentality. This is the belief that life happens to you rather than something that you can actively influence. People with a victim mentality often feel like they have no control over their circumstances. They believe that life's challenges are unfair and that they are powerless to change their situation. While it's natural to feel upset when bad things happen, it's important to recognize the difference between acknowledging hardship and accepting it as something you cannot control. The victim mentality keeps you stuck in a place of helplessness. It prevents growth because it allows you to avoid confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself or your behavior. If you don't take responsibility for your life, you'll never see the opportunity to change, grow, and thrive. For example, imagine someone who is stuck in a dead-end job and complains about their lack of success. They might blame their boss, their colleagues, or the company for their dissatisfaction. But when they don't take responsibility for their own career path, they miss the chance to ask themselves tough questions. Am I doing everything I can to develop my skills? Am I taking initiative to seek new opportunities? Taking responsibility means recognizing that your future is shaped by what you do today, not by others' actions. On the other hand, personal responsibility encourages you to ask yourself, what can I do today to create a different future? It requires the humility to acknowledge that your life is largely the result of your choices. It's about shifting your mindset from being a passive participant in your life to being an active creator of your destiny. Avoiding responsibility doesn't just make you feel powerless, it has real consequences. When you refuse to take ownership of your life, you give up the ability to learn from your mistakes. Instead of reflecting on how you might improve or do things differently, you stay trapped in a cycle of blaming and justifying. This keeps you stuck in a pattern of behavior that prevents progress and growth. Avoiding personal responsibility can lead to frustration and resentment. When we blame others for our situation, we often feel helpless and angry. But these feelings don't empower us to change anything. They merely keep us focused on the negative aspects of our circumstances. On the flip side, when we take responsibility, we can shift from frustration to action. We can move from complaining about problems to finding solutions and implementing them. For instance, someone who is struggling with their health might blame genetics or their busy schedule. While these factors can play a role, they don't fully explain why someone might not be taking care of their body. Personal responsibility means recognizing that no matter the external circumstances, you have a choice in how you treat your body. It means finding ways to prioritize your health, even if it requires difficult changes or sacrifices. One of the most important areas where personal responsibility plays a pivotal role is in relationships. Relationships require constant effort, communication, and compromise, and they're deeply influenced by how we take responsibility for our actions within them. For example, in romantic relationships, it's easy to blame your partner for problems or misunderstandings. But personal responsibility asks you to look inward and question whether you could have communicated better, been more understanding, or handled conflicts differently. When you shift from blaming others to taking responsibility for your own actions, it improves the quality of your relationships. It helps create an environment where both partners are empowered to work on their own growth without constantly pointing fingers at each other. The same concept applies to friendships and professional relationships. When you take responsibility for how you show up in a relationship, whether it's showing respect, being reliable, or communicating effectively, you foster trust and mutual respect. But when you shirk responsibility, it creates tension, miscommunication, and resentment. The best relationships are built on the mutual understanding that each person is accountable for their role in the connection. In family dynamics, personal responsibility can be transformative. Families often have their own set of challenges and dynamics, but when each member takes responsibility for their own actions, the family as a whole becomes stronger. Rather than allowing conflict to escalate through blame, personal responsibility fosters open communication and problem solving. It helps individuals take a step back and reflect on how their behavior might have contributed to the situation and how they can make things right. In the world of work and personal development, the concept of personal responsibility is even more important. Success in these areas doesn't happen by chance. It requires hard work, discipline, and the willingness to take ownership of your career, your goals, and your growth. Let's say you're trying to advance in your career. It's easy to blame external factors, your boss, the company, or even the industry for not getting ahead. But personal responsibility calls on you to look at your actions and behavior. Are you continuously learning and improving your skills? Are you taking initiative in your role or waiting for someone else to recognize your worth? Do you actively seek feedback and find ways to improve, or are you content with maintaining the status quo? Taking responsibility for your career also means making tough decisions. It could mean stepping out of your comfort zone, taking on new challenges, or even changing careers entirely. It requires the courage to face your fears and embrace growth, even when it's uncomfortable. But when you take responsibility for your success and your professional growth, you empower yourself to make the changes necessary to achieve your goals. Personal growth is another area where responsibility is key. No one can make you grow or change but you. Personal development is an active, ongoing process that requires consistent effort. You have to take responsibility for your own learning, your habits, and your mindset. If you're not growing, it's not because life hasn't given you the right opportunities, it's because you haven't taken full responsibility for your development. While personal responsibility is about taking ownership, accountability is about ensuring that you follow through. Accountability is the act of holding yourself answerable for the actions you take. It's about setting goals, tracking progress, and being honest with yourself about whether or not you're meeting your objectives. When you have someone, whether it's a mentor, a coach, or a close friend holding you accountable, it strengthens your resolve and keeps you on track. Accountability helps you stay consistent and focused, even when it's easy to slip into complacency. But ultimately, accountability is a tool to support your personal responsibility. No one else can take responsibility for your life. The ultimate accountability lies with you. This section on personal responsibility explores how owning your actions, decisions, and outcomes shapes not only individual growth, but also relationships, careers, and personal development. Let me know if you would like to explore any further aspect of this concept or add additional detail. Imagine looking in the mirror tomorrow, knowing that every decision you make, every action you take reflects the life you are building. What would happen if you embraced full responsibility for your actions today? How would your career, your relationships, and your future change if you stopped waiting for someone else to change your circumstances? The power is already in your hands. It's time to take ownership, to take action, and to shape the life you truly deserve. Are you ready to take that first step toward a life of personal responsibility and transformation?